euros. The state of Pará in Brazil has made protecting the environment a priority.
E fazer apelo pela Amazônia é também defender o planeta.
The climate crisis is a humanity crisis.
Period poverty is stigmatized every single day.
And today I'm thrilled to be here with my friend Sophia to call for action on women's empowerment around the world.
Restoring children's health, hopes, and dreams through access to school.
Today, I am joining the thousands of women who have cut their hair as an act of protest.
Take action now.
Akan selalu ada rintangan saat memulai langkah.
Tapi kami percaya bahwa kesempatan selalu ada bagi kita yang optimis.
Iya, optimis mengubah kesulitan menjadi kesempatan.
Tahun 2045 bukan sekedar 20 tahun bertambah usia kita, tapi kitalah yang memimpin bangsa Indonesia.
Hari ini adalah penentu masa depan untuk kita, untuk keluarga, juga untuk bangsa kita.
OSC memberikan kemudahan kepada kami untuk mendapatkan kesempatan melanjutkan pendidikan di kampus terbaik. Kami pun berkesempatan mendapatkan bantuan living cost.
Terima kasih OSC. Saat ini kami bersama jutaan pemuda lain siap menjadi generasi yang unggul dan berdaya saing untuk wujudkan generasi emas di tahun 2045.
Kami bisa, dan kini saatnya kalian.
Mari bergabung bersama Surya Edukasi Bangsa Foundation dalam melahirkan generasi unggul melalui pendidikan yang merata dan berkualitas.
Good morning, Indonesia, Southeast Asia, and the world.
So happy to be here as you start your day.
Do you remember the bend?
And snap!
Oh my God.
And that concludes the See Today updates for today. We'll return for information at 4 o'clock on the 3-hour news show.
Welcome back to See the Stories.
Now time for See Today Business with me, Kerrie.
Come see the beauty, only on See Indonesia.
Dari Madrid, saya stay 1 malam, terus besok paginya saya naik kereta ke Granada. Eventnya diselenggarakan di Granada, Spain.
Sebelumnya saya memang sudah hampir 6-7 bulan latihan. Mudah-mudahan saya bisa selesai dengan baik. Itu harapan saya.
Kita berjumpa lagi di konten ngobrolin tentang Nusantara.
Spot C, kedatangan very special VIP guest today.
Kan udah ditanya juga di situ.
Ya kan ini kan beda acaranya.
Back to the topic, guys.
all in this together with a purpose.
I'm a global citizen.
And fossil fuels.
Norway is pledging $90 million.
We will invest $150 million.
40 million euros.
The state of Pará in Brazil has made protecting the environment a priority.
E fazer apelo pela Amazônia é também defender o planeta.
The climate crisis is a humanity crisis.
Period poverty is stigmatized every single day.
And today, I'm thrilled to be here with my friend Sophia to call for action on women's empowerment around the world.
Restoring children's health, hopes, and dreams through access to school.
Today, I am joining the thousands of women who have cut their hair as an act of protest.
Take action now.
Akan selalu ada rintangan saat memulai langkah.
Tapi kami percaya bahwa kesempatan selalu ada bagi kita yang optimis.
Iya, optimis mengubah kesulitan menjadi kesempatan.
Tahun 2045 bukan sekedar 20 tahun bertambah usia kita, tapi kitalah yang memimpin bangsa Indonesia.
Hari ini adalah penentu masa depan untuk kita, untuk keluarga, juga untuk bangsa kita.
OSC memberikan kemudahan kepada kami untuk mendapatkan kesempatan melanjutkan pendidikan di kampus terbaik. Kami pun berkesempatan mendapatkan bantuan living cost.
Terima kasih OSC. Saat ini kami bersama jutaan pemuda lain siap menjadi generasi yang unggul dan berdaya saing untuk wujudkan generasi emas di tahun 2045.
Kami bisa, dan kini saatnya kalian.
Mari bergabung bersama Surya Edukasi Bangsa Foundation dalam melahirkan generasi unggul melalui pendidikan yang merata dan berkualitas.
Good morning, Indonesia, Southeast Asia, and the world.
So happy to be here as you start your day.
Do you remember the bend?
And snap!
Oh my God.
And that concludes the See Today updates for today. We'll return for information at 4 o'clock on the 3-hour news show.
Welcome back to See the Stories.
Now time for See Today Business with me, Kerrie.
Come see the beauty, only on See Indonesia.
Dari Madrid, saya stay 1 malam, terus besok paginya saya naik kereta ke Granada. Eventnya diselenggarakan di Granada, Spain.
Sebelumnya saya memang sudah hampir 6-7 bulan latihan. Mudah-mudahan saya bisa selesai dengan baik. Itu harapan saya.
Kita berjumpa lagi di konten ngobrolin tentang Nusantara.
Spot C kedatangan very special VIP guest today.
Kan udah ditanya juga di situ.
Ya kan ini kan beda acaranya.
Back to the topic, guys.
all in this together with a purpose.
I'm a global citizen. And fossil fuels. Norway is pledging $90 million.
We will invest $150 million.
40 million euros.
The state of Pará in Brazil has made protecting the environment a priority.
E fazer apelo pela Amazônia é também defender o planeta.
The climate crisis is a humanity crisis.
Period poverty is stigmatized every single day.
And today, I'm thrilled to be here with my friend Sophia to call for action on women's empowerment around the world.
And restoring children's health, hopes, and dreams through access to school.
Today, I am joining the thousands of women who have cut their hair as an act of protest.
Take action now.
Akan selalu ada rintangan saat memulai langkah.
Tapi kami percaya bahwa kesempatan selalu ada bagi kita yang optimis.
Iya, optimis mengubah kesulitan menjadi kesempatan.
Tahun 2045 bukan sekedar 20 tahun bertambah usia kita, tapi kitalah yang memimpin bangsa Indonesia.
Hari ini adalah penentu masa depan untuk kita, untuk keluarga, juga untuk bangsa kita.
OSC memberikan kemudahan kepada kami untuk mendapatkan kesempatan melanjutkan pendidikan di kampus terbaik. Kami pun berkesempatan mendapatkan bantuan living cost.
Terima kasih OSC. Saat ini kami bersama jutaan pemuda lain siap menjadi generasi yang unggul dan berdaya saing untuk wujudkan generasi emas di tahun 2045.
Kami bisa, dan kini saatnya kalian.
Mari bergabung bersama Surya Edukasi Bangsa Foundation dalam melahirkan generasi unggul melalui pendidikan yang merata dan berkualitas.
IP guest today.
Kan udah ditanya juga di situ.
Jangan ini kan beda acaranya.
Okay, back to the topic, guys.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are now entering the final session of Global Town Hall, Fireside Conversation on Bridgetown Initiative with the Honorable Kerrie Symmonds, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade of Barbados. For this, I invite the interviewers of the session, Angela Izzy-Ngusi. She is the Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterey and Beyond Bretton Woods student at Pfizer, and Lomus Budaisini, the Middlebury College and Beyond Bretton Woods student at Pfizer. Lomus and Angela, you may have the floor.
Hello, and welcome to the last session of the Global Town Hall 2024 Marathon, co-hosted by Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia and Global Citizen. I'm Lomus Budaisini, a Nepali undergraduate at Middlebury College. Before I hand over to my co-interviewer, I ask the audience to be on the lookout for a QR code, which will pop up on the off screen here, and which will lead to the editorial pieces on online actions that you can take to know more about the issues that are discussed today.
Thank you, Lomus. Hi, everyone. My name is Angela Izzy-Ngusi, and I am from Rwanda. I am a graduate student at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterey, also known as this.
To give you a bit more background, Middlebury is made up of two institutions, a college, which is a top 5 liberal arts college in the US, where I'm currently studying, and Middlebury Institute of International Studies, where Angela is continuing her graduate studies. Also, we are here supporting the Beyond Bretton Woods initiative as young academics, particularly in shaping the intergenerational voices on critical global issues. Beyond Bretton Woods is an international collective that brings together global experts, seasoned academics, and emerging scholars. Our goal is to design transformative solutions for a more equitable and ecocentric international monetary system. Today, we are delighted to have this opportunity to facilitate this conversation with Honorable Kerrie Symmonds from Barbados.
So we're thrilled to speak today with the Honorable Kerrie Symmonds, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade of Barbados, who also serves as the Senior Minister coordinating the productive sector. Since May 2018, Minister Symmonds has held several key positions within the government, including the Minister of Tourism and International Transport, Minister of Energy, Small Business and Entrepreneurship, and Minister of Energy and Business Development. Trained attorney at law and international trade law practitioner, he has provided consultancy services to various Caribbean nations, advocating for the region's interests on global platforms. His leadership extends spearheading Barbados' Bridgetown Initiative, a forward-looking agenda aimed at reshaping global financial systems through blended finance and innovative mechanisms like debt for equity and debt for nature swaps. This initiative seeks to attract private sector funding and advance sustainable development, particularly benefiting small island developing states, also known as SIDS, and low and middle income developing countries. Honorable Minister Symmonds, it is a pleasure to have you with us today. I think the mic is muted.
I think they had muted me. So it's a pleasure to be here. Angela, can you hear me now?
Yes,
we can hear you clearly.
Good. And thank you, Lomus, as well. Let me begin by congratulating the organizers for this very important webinar.
Yeah, and we'll just dive right into the questions.
Okay.
We'll use our time very well. And so we'd mentioned that Lomus and I are student advisors for the Beyond Bretton Woods. And at Beyond Bretton Woods, the world as we see it is at a polycrisis moment. And so we have severe climate catastrophes, global health pandemic, the geopolitical risks, the advent of the next generation artificial intelligence, social inequality, racial injustice, excessive financial leverage around the globe. All of those have plagued our world. But before we delve into the technical aspects of the polycrisis and potential solutions, we'd love to first hear more about Barbados and its experience with climate change, particularly in ways that the media might not fully capture. And so, Minister, from your perspective and from your experiences, how have the people of Barbados shown resilience in the face of climate change and its impacts, such as climate migration and other challenges?
Okay, let me dive right in and give you a very real life practical example. A few weeks ago, Barbados was struck by a category, well, at the time it passed us, it may have been around category 2, but it ultimately became a category 5 hurricane within about 100 or 150 miles of Barbados. It was accelerating very rapidly. It did tremendous damage to our fishing industry. We have a harbor where we shielded the boats, or so we thought, successfully for 30 years. And so therefore we put all of our 500 or so vessels into this little facility. But the wave action has been described as almost the perfect storm, and it completely decimated the protective walls. We had sea swells which were in excess of 35 feet, and they just banged all of the boats together, sunk I think around 64, 65 of them, and severely damaged as virtually beyond repair another 170 odd. And therefore, out of our about 500 boats, let us say on average, we may have lost around 230, which you can easily see is in the vicinity of 50, just over 50% of the vessels. Now, Barbados does not do a lot of exportation of fisheries, but as you can imagine, for a small island economy, we rely very heavily in terms of our food security on the fishing sector. And a lot of people earn their living in the domestic economy through artisanal fishing. So that just to take you straight into the reality, the cost for government, because many of these people, unfortunately, are not insured. And so the cost for government to step in and assist with the repair or replacement of vessels is now estimated at something in the vicinity of $95 million. This is completely off budget, completely unexpected, and then it is on top of all of the other commitments that government will traditionally have to carry in education, healthcare, transportation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There would obviously have to be some business interruption benefits because there are families who were dependent on this fishing industry. There's a whole ecosystem that is reliant on it. And so therefore, you just can't let them starve. You have to find some way of providing business interruption assistance. And that too must run for a sufficient period of time, whether it is 3, 4, 5 months until when we can have boats repaired and back in the water. And so therefore, that too comes at a substantial cost to government. And the reality is that that has not yet even begun to contemplate the hundreds of millions of dollars which will be required to rebuild the fishing harbor. So that you see immediately there the nexus between the financing to rebuild resilience in the context of climate change and the reality of the ongoing need to be able to manage and run and maintain an economy and society in a satisfactory way. So that is part and parcel of how we are facing the issue. And I dare say by building resilience to that aspect of the question, I would say we are doing our own repairs. We have sought the molds and the hulls from a company in Canada, and we have insisted that what we will do is to do the building of the vessels here. And it has allowed us now to start to do a boat building industry, which we would not have had before. And the truth of the matter is because we understand that increasingly this will be a problem across the region, we are trying to build back better and more resilient with the best possible quality of vessel. And Barbados can now position itself within the context of the wider Eastern Caribbean to being a leader in this boat building type of industry. So that out of the cloud of the disaster comes a gray line, a silver line of opportunity.
Yeah, and thank you very much for sharing that. I think it definitely provides insight on what's happening in Barbados, and we really just dived right in and started talking about the real life examples of how climate change is impacting Barbados. And, you know, it's not just a scientific issue, no, it actually has real life impacts. And we'll definitely come back to that, to the point where you mentioned about the government budget and how it's suddenly more stretched when it comes to addressing the climate change consequences. But for now, I'll turn it to Lomas for the next question.
Minister, I loved how you turned from physical actual risks to transcendental risk into the financial risks through climate catastrophes. As we see it, Barbados is a nation that is faced with triple whammy of climate change. Barbados contributes to the least to carbon debt. But Barbados is at the forefront of this climate calamities. And adding insult to the injury, Barbados is foisted with disproportionately high interest rates levels as a result of higher debt burden to pay for mitigation, adaptation, and loss and damages, as you mentioned just now. In the context of this climate crisis, what do you view to be the responsibilities of world's developed nations, those that are perhaps less affected by financial system at place?
Lomas, I would begin by saying to you that I think the point that you began on is the critical point. And if I could leave a message with the developed countries of the North, it would be simply that. There is no divorce between the climate financing issues and the development issues. You can't put a country in a position where you have to choose between financing on debt and ensuring that there is educational opportunity for kids or healthcare for your communities. And so therefore, perhaps the major message is two things. One, that there has to be climate action in the sense of consciously looking at the utility of the international financial architecture. And secondly, at the same time, looking at new resources of money. Look, I get it. I understand that the Eastern European countries are sitting on the cusp of a war that has run already for 2 and going into a 3rd year. I get it that the cost of defending their own territories is now going to run into astronomical amounts of money. I get it that everybody, including the North, are building resilience in their economies all at the same time. But the reality is that there is an inherent weakness in the system. And there are those of us who are microstates, but we are people too, and part of the planet too. And we are not the polluters, but we are disproportionately facing the fallout of the pollution. So it is not just a call for you to have some conscience, but it is really a call to recognize that once people's communities start to disintegrate around them, whether it be desertification in a place like Africa, or alternatively, migration born out of environmental damage and destruction in the Caribbean or in the Pacific, people will move. And that movement invariably is going to be to places which they perceive to be more secure. And that again means the pressure on the industrial North. It is a pressure which is being resisted already in the politics of France, in the politics of the United Kingdom. We've just seen the election results, in the politics of several of the countries. And obviously in the United States, it's a major issue. So let us not encourage a push factor, but let us try to meet the challenge where it exists and sensibly take stock of the international financial system and to identify where some of the significant difficulties exist today, and let us work on fixing it as an intellectual community.
Okay, wonderful.
That goes very well into my next question. When you talk about climate change and talk about how it is connected to the international financial architecture, we definitely have a lot of systemic challenges, like a lot of these issues that we're facing. We can solve them, we can address them by addressing the roots, which is fixing, for instance, the international financial architecture. And my next question, Minister, we wanted to paint a picture to the audience as to how the small island developing states are shaping the conversation regarding the international financial architecture review. As Barbados is spearheading the Bridgetown initiative, what do you see as the key issues in the international financial system? And you sort of talked about that, but like a little more specific, and how does the Bridgetown initiative begin to address them or hold countries accountable?
Well, look, Bridgetown was, how can I put it? Bridgetown was unveiled in 2022. It really constitutes a canvas, a means of reaching out to the rest of the world and saying, look, these are some ideas from a small island developing state. We do not presume to have all the answers, but we want to stimulate intellectual and thought-provoking discussion. We are hoping for a paradigm shift, if you will, and that paradigm shift would be in the context of discourse with regard to capital flows, with regard to reform of the international financial system. And we put some specifics on the table. We felt, for example, that every country has special drawing rights, and some of the major powers in the G20, for example, and G7 could perhaps be invited to rechannel some of those special drawing rights with a view to helping build global resilience, because we have one planet. We're all here together. We felt that the Resilience and Sustainability Trust, which was created by the IMF now, and which I think is a success of the Bridgetown initiative, was another area where there was worthwhile discussion opportunity. We felt that loss and damage is an area which I've just alluded to in our own experience. Every single year, almost in every month of the year, of the period between June and November, there is a holding of the breath in this part of the world, because the storms just keep rumbling through one after the other. Some are tremendously devastating, capable of setting back the gross domestic product of a country by over 200% in the space of a 4 or 5 hour climatic activity. And that is a serious thing for a government then to turn to grapple with, because, as I said, equally many of us are indebted countries. The administration, which I now have the pleasure to be part of, came into government in 2018. At that time, the sad and sorry record for Barbados was that we were actually within the top 3 or 4 most indebted countries on the earth. We had to fight with that. 180% of GDP was debt to GDP ratio. And we've wrestled that back down to around 105% now, so that we are now in line with where many European countries actually are. But you can't ask us to do that successfully on one hand, and on the other hand, turn the blind eye to the fact that tomorrow morning, heaven forbid, not would, there could be newscast that says you have a Category 5 hurricane on your doorstep. And as has happened right next door to us in the island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, some of the Grenadine islands were rendered uninhabitable, just completely destroyed by that same hurricane that passed through. So the issue of loss and damage and how we treat to that was a major aspect of the Bridgetown initiative. And at COP28, I think there was a commitment of $700 million towards the development of this fund. Now, one is grateful. The widow's mite is something you say thank you for. Gran taught me that. But equally, Granny taught me that I have to apply my heart to wisdom. And $700 million is only going to be a ripple on the surface of what is really necessary to seriously speak to the question of loss and damage. As I indicated to you just now, one single fishing harbor in Barbados will probably take us well in excess of $500 million. So that, you know, the global fund has to be capitalized. And that's another aspect of what we're talking about in the Bridgetown initiative, because we're saying that, look, there are entities who are making ridiculous and obscene profits out of the oil and gas sector. And when you can have one company, I think is the Saudi company Aramco, which is declaring $200 billion in profits in a year, then perhaps it may be a useful thing to have them seated at the table and to say, folks, you can continue to make profit, but you can't make profit on a planet that is destroyed. So again, apply one's heart to wisdom, and you say a percentage, maybe even if it is only a 1% of your budget, is plowed back into the global fund, which would be for building resilience and so on. Equally, we have to face the fact that there are some entities which are making equally obscene profits as a result of the mad rush. All of us at one time want to get into renewable energy. Every country on the planet is speaking the language of some new renewable energy technology, whatever it is. And the people behind those technologies, the manufacturers, are making profits which are unthinkable a few years ago. And so they too perhaps should be seated at the table and plowing some of the profit back into the protection of us all, because it is the common heritage of mankind. I think that the other thing that we have to look at is that, perhaps I should say this. I would be the last or among the last as a former tourism minister and as a minister in a small island developing state which relies heavily on tourism to say to you that there should be a travel tax. But I do believe, and my prime minister shares the view, that there should be some invitation to voluntarily make a contribution to the environment every time we get on an aircraft. And, if you're a traveling economy, maybe you may wish to play $5 towards what is the extension of the carbon footprint that you are contributing to. I don't think that things like that stand in the way of economic progress, but it helps us to collide with reality. That merchant shipping, international air travel, there's a range of other businesses which are not now at the table and which perhaps need to be at the table. And I don't want to talk forever and ever, but there's one bugbear that we do have in this region, and I'll share it with you. We watch with tremendous concern the retreat of insurance companies from places like Western United States and Canada, where they have these very terrible bushfires. We watch with equal concern the retreat of the insurance companies in southern United States, where they too have some bad hurricanes. And we recognize that retreat is characterized by two things. Sometimes it is a withdrawal completely from the market. The risk is too much. We're not going to take that risk. Forget about it. We'll seek life elsewhere. In other instances, the premium goes so high that they're unreachable. So if you ask me to pay the premium and I can't possibly pay that, then really and truly, there's no insurance. But at the root of every business contract is insurance. There's not going to be any investment in the Caribbean, a tourism destination, hospitality center, entertainment center, if we don't have investment, and if that investment is not underpinned by the presence of the tourism the insurance sector. So we need to have insurance entities that are sufficiently on board and committed to staying on board, that it allows for business to continue to develop and to grow and economies to expand. If you pull the rug out from under our feet in terms of insurances, then we become uninsurable and uninvestable. And these lovely islands stand the peril and the threat of becoming useless rocks in the Caribbean Sea. My thinking is that is part of the conversation that we do need to have as well. What is the future of the insurance industry? How can we keep them at the table? We recognize that they are subject to significant payouts from time to time. But then how can we find a meaningful way of working together with them in order to ensure that they continue to be there? The solution, some will say, is, well, government can step in and cover the costs. But as I said to you, highly indebted governments and small communities simply don't have that girth, and it would be an impossibility. So it is a bedeviling question, but again, I don't think it is beyond us as humanity to lend our thoughts and brains to this. And that's why I feel so strongly about you young people doing your thing in this regard, because no, I'm being very serious. You are pushing the envelope sufficiently far that you cause people to pause and think. And it matters. And the next generation in this region that I have the privilege of representing politically need to know that there are folks out there who are fighting on their behalf.
Wonderful. We love to hear about that. And just to follow up on that, it seems like there's a grim reality that there's a weak business environment, that Barbados seems to have no insurance, like you mentioned, but also
don't get me wrong. We have the insurance. It is just that there is, when we see what is happening in the US, there is the fear that that can be impacting us too. You follow me?
Yeah, I see. Okay, just to scratch that then. Yeah. With the next question, I invite us to reflect on the past, gain insights on the present, and pave way for a better future. In the realm of international finance again, even the Bridgetown initiative has gone through 3 iterations as of now. highlighting the ever-changing needs and priorities in this field. The Bretton Woods institutions, namely the IMF and the World Bank, on the 80th anniversary of this year, are operating in a context that is vastly different from when they were established. Do you envision the need for new institutions alongside these existing Bretton Woods institutions to adequately address the poly crisis?
I'm not so sure that we need to have new institutions. I think that we need to have new systems. I would begin by governance. When the Bretton Woods system was created, it did not have in mind a country like Barbados. We were a colony of the United Kingdom at the time, and we mattered not. All of the islands of the Caribbean and of the Pacific were colonies of somebody at the time, and they mattered not. Most of Latin America were colonies of Spain or Portugal, and they mattered not. The world has changed. Africa is now full of independent republics who would have been colonies at the creation of the Bretton Woods system. So that you now have billions of human beings out there who have no voice at the table. And I think that that's really where we have to begin. We have to begin by looking at the governance structure and assessing it on its merits and asking the difficult question, is this truly fit for purpose? What are some of the issues that exist today that did not exist then? The climate crisis that we're talking about was not on the radar at that time. So that issue, along with climate financing, has to be brought squarely into the focus now of all of the Bretton Woods institutions. And to some extent, that is happening. Pandemic prevention, even though there had been a pandemic, I think in early 1900s, pandemic prevention was not seen as a major concern. Today, because of the antimicrobial issues and the slowing down in the rate of production of antibiotics and so on, and abuse of the antibiotics that we do have, we are likely to see far more of the pandemic type issues arising. And COVID has taught us that there is a weakness, and therefore we have to face that systemic weakness in terms of the capacity to manufacture, in terms of the distributive nature of your distribution of the medicines and vaccines and so on. Simply put, we can't expect former colonies, post-colonial developing countries to just be content with being at the back of the line and hoping that someone will get around to them. And if that was the attitude that was taken by governments in my part of the world, the reality is that we would be gotten rid of very, very quickly and perhaps very forcibly. And that type of social and political unrest also needs to be avoided. Again, the Bretton Woods system did not contemplate the need for a move towards renewable energy technology in any major way. These are but a few issues that are facing us. But I could go on. There is a challenge across the world now. I think the crisis of tomorrow will be food and water. Desertification and people who were migrants as a result of an inability to feed themselves and eat was not an issue when Bretton Woods was created. It is an issue today. The digitization of global economy and all of the states comprising that economy was not an issue then, but it is an issue today. So in this era of technological change, as I talked to you, it occurs to me I haven't even mentioned biodiversity and the destruction of our biodiversity and the need to find ways to preserve that. All of these are confronting governments now. And the lending institutions born out of Bretton Woods need to be able to fit themselves into these priorities. And again, governance, which means voices at the table or seats at the table, recognition of the weaknesses in terms of the traditional focus and understanding of what development actually meant. And may I also say, recognizing that our trade systems must now improve and be fit for purpose. We often talk about Bretton Woods without recognizing that the WTO is also part of it. And the truth of the matter is that there are some policies that disturb me. I think colleague foreign trade ministers mean well, but you have to be very careful that you do not now create a green form of protection, so that when once goods and so on coming from the developing world arrive at the ports in the industrial north, and then they are being confronted with tariffs because there is a feeling that there is an input to the good, or part of the process of manufacturing the good was not sufficiently carbon neutral, then you on one hand may be trying to protect the environment, but on the other hand, and perhaps unintentionally, you are having the effect of saying to developing countries which do not have the capacity overnight to make their production entirely carbon neutral and should benefit from a period of time so that they can make the necessary adjustments and are not getting that asymmetric relationship, that benefit, then you're saying to them either that they stay on the outside of international trade, which is economic ruin, or alternatively, that they continue now to be fighting a battle against a new form of protectionism. And that's a battle that we have to be very careful.
Okay, Minister, that was a wonderful session with you today. I would like to thank you so much for having a conversation with us, and thank you to the audience and everyone in the background to make this live streaming of this conversation possible today. With this, we end our session and we're done with the last discussion today. And to move on, we have the closing ceremony, and I hand it over to the moderators now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kerrie Symmonds, Lomus, and Angela. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Fireside Conversation on the Bridgetown Initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the very last hour of Global Town Hall. The past 15 hours have been full of insights. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in throughout the day.
And to wrap up, we now invite the co-hosts of the Global Town Hall 2024 for their closing remarks. First, let's welcome Global Citizens co-founder and Chief Policy, Impact, and Government Relations Officer, Michael Sheldrick. Meek, please take it away. Meek, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for unmuting me. I really want to give a shout out to our friends at the foreign policy community of Indonesia. You've done a tremendous job. I know it is past midnight pretty much in Jakarta, and I want to thank everyone for joining around the world. I hope you all get some rest, but with the next cycle of sleep, I hope you wake up determined to change the world. There are many reasons people say why you should be living in despair, why you should be angry with the world. And yet we see day in, day out, as we've seen over the last 15 hours, some tremendous areas of change taking place at the community, state, local, national, around the world. And one thing I want to leave us all with is a reminder that, yes, we have artificial intelligence. Yes, we have new challenges like climate change. But the way in which we make change as individuals is timeless, is timeless and age old. It requires us to compromise. It requires us to have dialogue. It requires us to have discussion with one another. It requires us to really embrace the virtue of global citizenship. And at the core of that means engaging with people we don't always like or even agree with. But day in, day out, it's through that dialogue in which change happens. And that's the spirit of Global Town Hall. But of course, our tagline was to create change and take action in a messy world. And to that end, I want to invite everyone listening in to go to globalcitizen.org, to download the Global Citizen app, and you can take action as you sync throughout the QR codes on this dialogue. You can take action on all of the issues we've been discussing today. And for those listening in very carefully,
QR.
if you take 5 actions or more and you take a screenshot of that of your action page on the app, and you can prove to me at Mick Sheldrick on Instagram, or send it to me, michael.sheldrick@gmail.com, and you can screenshot your page, and you can show you've taken at least 5 actions. We will get you a copy of my new book, From Ideas to Impact, on Audible, or available on digital form, which lists 8 steps for how we can continue to change the world. It all begins with us. It's about taking action. And I also invite you to follow along. You can watch the Global Citizen Festival on September 28th. You can join us as we create the Economic Development Assembly later this year. This is an invitation to all of us, because change starts with us to defeat poverty, defend the planet, and demand equity. And lastly, I want to give a shout out, whether it was from Beyond Bread and Woods, Middlebury College, through Everland, through many of the sponsors and partners that have in universities. You know, this is a broad coalition. We've embraced this. Remember that no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. And acknowledging and recognizing that is at the heart of what it means to be a global citizen. So thank you very much for joining us. Take action. And with that, I really want to give a shout out, and next up, to my warm and incredible friend, Ambassador Dingo, for inviting us to be on this journey with you. You're a tremendous force for good, and it's our honor to be part of this global town hall. Thank you, and we'll see you next year.
Thank you, Mick. Now we invite the founder and chairman of Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia, Dr. Dino Patijalal, to deliver his closing remark. Dr. Dino, you may have the floor.
Thank you very much, Jenny. As you can hear, I'm starting to lose my voice because we've been here for about 15 hours, and Mick is right. This is past midnight, and I just want to give a special thanks to everybody that have taken part on this beautiful and wonderful journey. Excuse me, tolong. Yeah, okay. And thank you so much for all your cooperation and assistance and very generous spirit of cooperation to make this wonderful Global Town Hall a success. We've had many discussions, 12 sessions, and 15 hours long. We have over 100 speakers. We have about 175 civil society groups. We have crossed 10,000 participants coming from 121 countries. And this is truly meaningful and impactful civil society meeting. I think from all the discussions that we heard today, there were many themes that were uttered. One is we want our leaders to do better. We want our leaders to exercise not just leadership, but statesmanship in this very difficult challenge that the world is facing. We need to see more trust building among nations, among communities, and between the North and South, and between the East and West. We want to see more cooperation. We recognize that there will always be rivalries and competition in the world system, but we definitely need a greater dose of cooperation. We certainly need more dialogue, and as I said earlier today, we were concerned that the space for dialogue is shrinking, that positions are hardening, and mistrust is growing. I think the antidote for that is for civil societies, at least civil societies, to persist in the dialogue process, of which this Global Town Hall is part of. We need to keep listening to one another, and we need to have an open debate where we have criticisms of one another, so long as it's done in a constructive spirit. I think we saw a lot of that today, a lot of criticisms, a lot of constructive ideas, and all taken in good faith. And I hope it is useful for all of us to listen to. And of course, as Mick said, the idealism that was displayed throughout the whole discussions all day was especially important. Yes, we have problems, serious problems, monumental problems, but we also are not lacking in idealism and the positivity to address these issues. And I know this is something that's going to make a difference. I think the most obvious lesson from today is that definitely civil societies need to connect. I believe that 95, maybe 98 or 99% of civil societies around the world are not connected beyond their national borders, right? And I think that is something that we need to fix. And I hope the Global Town Hall is part of the ways by which civil societies in Asia, in Africa, in Europe, in the Middle East, in Latin America, North America, the Pacific, they all can connect with one another and make their voices heard and become part of the solution. There is a lot of hope that I felt today, not hopelessness, but hope. And I'm sure that this is something that was felt by all the panelists and also by the participants who took part in the sessions that we had today. Finally, I want to thank our partner, Global Citizen, Mick Sheldrick, Ruben, and all the guys whom we have worked with in the last few months tirelessly to make sure that everything would go well today. And last but not least, obviously, I want to thank all the staff of FPCI. Maybe you all want to say, there you go. So you heard that. I can't switch the camera, but we have, I think, some 50 people around the room. Not one of them slept today. I give instruction to our photographers. If anyone slept, take a picture. We can post it. But miraculously, no one slept. And it just shows you their dedication. We have spent 26,000 hours. I repeat, 26,000 hours altogether preparing for the Global Town Hall. And I think it shows you that the idealism, the can-doism, and the dedication that FPCI staff and Global Citizen staff have shown to organize this Global Town Hall. So thank you very much. Thank you for your friendship, your cooperation, your solidarity, and let's all keep working to make this a better world and to augment the role of civil societies in the solutions to global problems, to concrete actions. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your remarks, Dr. Dino. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of the 15-hour marathon discussion, the Global Town Hall 2024, Keeping Course, Actions and Solutions for a Messy World.
We thank all of the speakers and discussants who have spoken today, as well as everybody who have been tuning in throughout the day.
It's a pleasure for us to engage with over 175 civil society institutions, exchanging views together with world leaders, policymakers, activists, and over 10,000 participants from 130 countries.
We hope this town hall has managed to voice out the concerns, aspirations, and views from the civil societies from north, south, east, west part of the world, and managed to catch the attention of the ones that make policies on national and global levels.
And once again, we thank the media partners of this year's Global Town Hall, MetroTVNews.com, Rakyat Merdeka Online, Harian Rakyat Merdeka, TXT from IR, Liputan6.com, and See Today.
We also extend our gratitude and give a big thanks to our consortium, 66 civil society organizations, 52 schools and universities, and 57 think tanks from across the globe.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, the Global Town Hall 2024 has officially come to a close. Please stay connected with us through our Instagram at Global Town Hall for more information about our Town Hall upcoming series.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, we are signing off. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon. See you at Global Town Hall next year.